I'll now call the Standing Committee meeting of March 4th, 2024 to order. We welcome a number of people into the boardroom for our public meetings. In accordance with our policies and procedures and the Code of Conduct for public participation in meetings, we expect a safe and respectful environment for all participants. That includes staff, board members, and guests. Everyone is expected to be respectful and not interrupt the meeting proceedings. In the interest of maintaining that, should there be any conflict between members of the audience or any meeting disruptions, people in attendance may be directed to leave the premises. Next is our land acknowledgement. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewa of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. Next on the agenda is a statement from Chair Thatcher.
Good evening. I'm Christine Thatcher, Chair of the Durham District School Board of Trustees. I want to take this opportunity to emphasize the unwavering commitment of the Board of Trustees of the Durham District School Board in combating anti-Black racism and all forms of racism and discrimination. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I also express the Board's support for all groups who continue to be discriminated against in our schools, workplaces, and communities. The Board's commitment and support are not confined to a particular month or date of significance. Rather, it is a year-round focus, deeply ingrained in our actions and guided by the DDSB's Indigenous Education Policy, the Human Rights, Anti-Discrimination, and Anti-Racism Policy, and the Safe and Respectful Workplace Policy. For example, the DDSB actively engages in initiatives beyond Black History Month events, such as the implementation of the second version of the Compendium of Action for Black Student Success and continuous community partnerships and engagement. Improving student and staff experiences, advancing achievement, building relationships, and fostering well-being are fundamental to our new strategic plan. Our guiding principles include caring for each other and upholding Indigenous rights and human rights. To do this, we recognize our shared responsibility to respond to the diverse and intersectional experiences of student, staff, and community members. By listening attentively and acting accordingly, we are actively addressing systemic inequities in public education. Dismantling systemic racism and all forms of discrimination requires persistence, humility, empathy, and learning. The DDSB understand there is more work to do to intentionally address discrimination based on all human rights, code-protected grounds, and intersections of grounds, including, and not limited to, ancestry, race, ability, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, and religion. The Durham District School Board remains dedicated to this ongoing work of creating a safe, inclusive, and supportive environment where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. Thank you for your attention. The DDSB appreciates the ongoing support of and collaboration with community members as we work towards our shared goals and responsibilities to ensure that all students, staff, and families know that they belong here at the DDSB. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Thatcher. Next, I'll move on to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, there are no declarations of interest at this time. On to the approval of the agenda, and this evening there are 2 items to be added to the agenda. The first is a letter to the ministry regarding the EDC cap as item 8B under recommended actions, and the second is the OPSBA policy resolution as item 8C under recommended action. With those changes, are there any objections to the draft agenda? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder for the amended agenda? Trustee Miller and Trustee Morton, thank you. All those in favor of the amended agenda? Opposed? It's carried. Next is the DDSB presentations, and I would call on Superintendent Stephen Nevels at this time.
Good evening, and through you, Chair Oldfield. I'm thrilled to share with trustees information this evening on how DDSB supports our Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program for our students. To share this information, I welcome Monique Mueller, System Lead for Student Success, Annalise Bork, DDSB OYAP Recruiter and Co-op Facilitator, and Brianne Brown, our OYAP Training Delivery Agent and Structure for the Durham Hairstylist Academy.
Good evening. My name is Monique Mueller. I'm the System Lead for Student Success. Tonight we have the pleasure of introducing you to the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program at the Durham District School Board. And I'm going to pass this on now to Annalise Bork, who is our OYAP and Co-op Facilitator.
Good evening. My name is Annalise Bork, and I am the OYAP Co-op Facilitator for Durham District School Board. I'm a skilled tradesperson first, a teacher second, and a facilitator third. OYAP is my passion, and I'm thrilled to be able to speak with you about it tonight. Overview of OYAP. There are 144 skilled trades that students can experience through OYAP. There are 3 types of OYAP. They all take place in high schools where students are enrolled in a cooperative education course. Students can start their apprenticeship training while they're still in high school. The first type of OYAP is OYAP participant. An OYAP participant is any student that's participating in a skilled trade co-op. The hours or competencies that they earn during their apprenticeship in high school may count towards their apprenticeship post-graduation. The second type of OYAP is OYAP RTA. Students that are on a signed registered training agreement with an employer as an apprentice are OYAP RTA students. The hours or competencies that they earn during their apprenticeship in high school can count towards their apprenticeship post-graduation. Level 1 OYAP students attend a trade school for their Level 1 training while simultaneously completing hours that are counted towards their apprenticeship in a registered training agreement with an employer. Level 1 is theoretically heavy and has an application process like a scholarship for the skilled trades. OYAP promotions and activities. This is a small sample of the activities and promotions that we've done for OYAP. Mind Over Metal 2023 Welding Camp was developed to increase female-identifying students' confidence prior to entering the Level 1 OYAP. All female-identifying students in Hard Tech Level 1 were invited. This included welding students, plumbing, auto service tech, carpentry, millwright, and electrical. This was designed to support all female tradespeople going through and making connections with other students that would be attending similar programming. You can see from the video they created some pretty cool things. It was enjoyable. Welcome to OYAP Level 1 2024. We held this right here in the boardroom in December 2023 because we found that there was gaps for students entering their Level 1 OYAP and understanding how they would get through the programming and what to do after they graduated. It was designed to support Level 1 students and parents and guardians understanding the apprenticeship pathway from pre-program to post-graduation. These students are currently attending their training delivery agent or college for training and apprenticing at the same time. Mechanic. Mechanic was a car course held at RS McLaughlin CVI in the evening to teach female identifying students and a parent or guardian how to perform an oil change and car maintenance. We took the opportunity to promote OYAP to students during our dinner break, which was led by myself and Alyssa Jessup, our female auto instructor, who is also an OYAP graduate. In 2023, over 100 students traveled to the College of Carpenters and Allied Trades and LIUNA to learn about unionized pathways. They experienced bricklaying, carpentry, and basic tool use for various situations. Students learned how to build a doghouse from framing to completion. There was information provided by both unions of how to join a Level 1 through OYAP or post-graduation. I'm thrilled tonight to introduce Brianne Brown to you. Brianne was a DDSB student who went from high school to OYAP at Durham Hairstylist Academy. She completed her apprenticeship and her ministry exam, became a business owner, and is now our DHA instructor. Go ahead, Brianne.
Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to meet everyone in person today. As Anna introduced me, I am a licensed self-employed hairstylist and educator. And during my years at Sinclair Secondary School, I made the decision to join Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. I attended Durham Hairstylist Academy and completed my hours at my salon co-op placement. After graduating from DHA, I went on to write the ministry-mandated exam and received my hairstylist license. I am now a business owner and have recently been hired as an educator at Durham Hairstylist Academy for the Level 1 Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, where I have this honor of guiding the students down the pathway to apprenticeship. My experience during the process was slightly intimidating because I was seeing my peers who didn't take the route continue their academic journey, but what I didn't see is that I was so much closer to my future career. Due to the fact that I was no longer in my regular high school classes, but actually learning the technical skills of what I was most passionate about, the fear and anxiety quickly subsided. I went into class twice a week, bursting with excitement, eager to see what class that day would bring. I felt supported not only by my co-op teacher, but by my former instructor, who I now consider a valuable mentor. Thank you.
Thank you, Bree. Future planning and evidence of impact. The OYAP recruiter will continue to promote OYAP in the 144 skilled trades available to students through many different activities. Schools are encouraged to host information sessions to increase student and parent engagement. Partnerships with local businesses and advisory boards will continue to help shape and support students entering the workforce with recommendations for improvements. We anticipate in 2024-2025 there will be another increase of OYAP students. We predict at this time that we will have approximately 450 students enrolled in one of the 3 types of OYAP. Thank you very much for letting us present to you tonight. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from trustees? Trustee Morton?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. The OYAP program is amazing. Do we have a date established for skilled trades at the arena in Oshawa, as we did last year?
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
I don't have the date on hand, but I do believe it will be sometime in April, and that would be the elementary skilled trades competition, and we're anticipating approximately 600 students competing there.
I went last year. I found it totally amazing, and I would highly recommend everyone attend that event. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Edwards?
Thank you, and I much appreciated your presentation, and I agree with Trustee Morton as far as OYUP is really an important one of our important pathways available to our students. I'm just wondering, as far as, again, what kind of supports for our students with special needs that might be interested in what kind of supports is provided for them in order to participate in OEM.
You just, yeah. Sorry, it time's out. I can't do anything about it.
No problem. So there are 3 types of OYAP that students can participate. So if they're participating in a skilled trade co-op, any student can participate. If they can complete the health and safety requirements, that would be the main focus, and that would be within supports within the school, working with co-op teachers, working with the team to prepare the students to go out and experience a co-op.
Student Trustee Kasoju.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to say thank you for such an amazing program, OYAP. I always hear about it from my guidance counselors, and I always hear positive things. As a big believer of experiential learning and also women in trades, I'm particularly interested in what kind of ways you implement to engage female-identifying students to participate in OYAP. I heard about the mechanic, or yeah, such a great name, and I love the program, but I'm just wondering what ways you're implementing to engage and kind of gauge their interest to even know about the program.
Okay, I think this is still on. So there are many different campaigns that we do. So one of them is through advertisements. So in basketball courts, we had an image of a female welder, as well as in hockey arenas, and they're now being installed into bus shelters where it says interest in a skilled trade, or it says graduate with a resume, and it has a female welder there. So we're trying to make sure that we're including proper imagery. That's the first thing. The second thing is this year and last year I toured schools. So this year we went to grades 1 to 3, because oftentimes it's who you see when you're young. My whole family's skilled trades, so when you get into it, you understand it. But I toured with Jamie McMillan, who's an iron worker, and we went to grades 1 to 3 for 5 days this year. And she explained the different types of skilled trades that were available to students through kind of really interesting imagery, and then they got to try on her harness and carry her tool belt, so that was really interesting and cool for them to look up to. We also have advisors in our advisory board, so female graduate students that talk about what their difficulties are, and oftentimes we connect those females with other females going into it. So we are making sure to build up our female leaders so that they can take that back to younger students and make them feel comfortable, like they have a team to play on. So that was the Mind Over Metal welding camp, was also kind of the same idea. I hope that answers your question.
Trustee Cunningham.
Thank you. That was an excellent presentation and a wonderful program. I'm interested, so as I've been touring high schools, I see that some of them have entire wings with all kinds of tech classes, and some only have a couple of available options. And I'm wondering how you even out the opportunities so that no matter what kind of facilities someone has at their school, they're aware of all the options that might be available to them and how they might find something that interests them.
Okay, we're good. One part that I'll start with, and then I'll pass to Monique, is that, as I mentioned, the 144 skilled trades are available through co-op. So our level 1 accelerated program is limited, but as soon as a student is able to take co-op, if they have any interest in any of the 144 skilled trades, they can go out into the community and experience that, and that does help with any lack of access in certain areas, and the rest of it I'll let Monique speak to.
So the actual coursework that they do is with a dual credit, and the dual credits are located in the colleges, where they have at Fleming and Durham College full facilities for all of our students in all of the trades. So our students have access to those facilities, including the instructors, as well. The Centers for Success is also connected with the skilled trades there, and all of our students have access to that as well. So by partnering with the colleges, we're able to have the facilities we need for the students to have industry-ready equipment to use and practice on.
Trustee Miller.
Thank you, and through your chair, thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you, Brianne. I was interested in wondering about the entrepreneurial opportunities, and was that available post-graduating from the program?
So to answer your question, the entrepreneurial aspect of it was actually something that I was able to achieve through my experience, and because my experience was accelerated due to the fact that I joined the salon environment in my grade 11 summer. So in my co-op of summer school, I was able to be exposed to the salon environment and develop those skills before I was even in the co-op program. So what actually happened was that through my experience at the salon, I was able to gain opportunities that I wouldn't have at such a young age had I not. So through me being an entrepreneur, that means being able to run my own business, renting my own chair, understanding the ins and outs because of the experience I gained at such a young age.
And I just wanted to add that this year, the ministry has provided funding for 2 transition advisors for the DDSB. These transition advisors help students once they complete their level 1 to be able to go to their level 2 or any other opportunities. One of the areas that they do discuss is also entrepreneurship opportunities or attending college or finishing off level 2. And Anna is actually one of our OYAP transition advisors for the school board.
And sorry, just one more thing to add on to that. back to the entrepreneurship. We often partner with Business Advisory Council of Durham, and sometimes they have summer programs or first business programs that we let the students know about. So if they're coming out, similar to what Bree did, there's connections for funding and support for business planning and working with banks and whatnot to try to open their small businesses.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the director's update, and this evening we have the pleasure of having Associate Director David Wright with us on behalf of Camille Williams-Taylor. So over to you, Associate Director Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And on behalf of Director Williams-Taylor, I'm pleased to provide the director's update to you this evening. On February 28th, DDSB students and staff recognized Pink Shirt Day in schools and workplaces with the goal of continuing to foster understanding, respect, kindness, and enhance awareness of the harmful effects of bullying, homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. Pink Shirt Day serves as an important reminder of our individual and collective responsibilities to create and maintain safe, welcoming, respectful, and inclusive environments for all students, staff, and community members. Sometimes small actions can create significant positive change. Last Thursday, in partnership with the Robert McLaughlin Gallery in Oshawa, for Art's Sake, DDSB Secondary School Gallery, Student Gallery opened. The biannual exhibition celebrates the artistic talents of DDSB students and showcases work from nearly every high school in the district. The exhibition will remain open until March 17th, and we encourage everyone in the community to visit and view the outstanding artwork created by our students. Students in our elementary modified calendar schools begin their March break today, and all other schools will be closed for March break beginning this Friday, reopening on Monday, March 18th. We hope everyone in the DDSB community has a fun, safe, and restful break. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions from trustees? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is the recommended actions. And I have under 8A, I will turn it over to Trustee Michelle Arsenault.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Today, I would like to put forward a motion. This motion is that staff prepare an information report on modified school year calendars as soon as possible for trustees consideration at a standing committee meeting.
Was everyone clear? Did we hear that clearly, the motion? I need a seconder. Trustee Miller? Okay, are there any questions on the motion, debate on the motion? Trustee Student Ben Cameron?
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering what information the report is seeking about modified school year calendars.
Thank you. The reason for this motion is I've had many families come to me, contact me in regards to the modified school year. We have 4 schools that are currently under this modified program. This was set up to be a pilot program in, I believe, 2015. And I'm just, for their information and for other trustees' information as well as to how well this program is going, where this pilot program is going to end up. Are we going to see it in other schools? Just kind of gather information to see whether or not it's worth it to continue this program. Because we do have some parents that feel that it is worth it, but we do have equally amount of parents that are feeling that it's not worth it. So this is why I put forward this.
I have Trustee Pinello online. Go ahead, Trustee Pinello.
Thank you, Chair. I think the first part of my question was answered. I didn't know what the purpose or the intent behind the motion was for the information request. But I wonder too if I believe there was something last year where we actually received a report or we discussed the modified year. Maybe we didn't, but if we can just get clarification, because I do recall it actually being on the news, and I can't recall if that was because some students go back to school earlier or have the modified year, and it was more so an information piece, or if it was actually a report that came forth. So if I could just get clarification from someone on that, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, and I think Associate Director Markowski would like to speak on this as well.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, just to respond to Trustee Pinello's, we do every year when we seek approval for the school year calendars, we do bring information in relation to the modified school calendars. They're usually part of the package. I know previously we have brought forward reports in relation to the modified elementary calendars. I'm thinking back probably a few years ago now. If I just may, I just want a clarification from Trustee Arsenault that the information report is both for secondary and elementary. We have 5 in total, 2 in the elementary track and 3 in the secondary track. Happy to put forward a report together, and if there's any specific information that you're looking for, please let us know.
Trustee Arsenault?
Yes, and thank you. You're correct. It is 5 schools that we do have under this modified program. I am looking for both elementary and secondary schools. I'm looking for basically trying to figure out the positive and negatives of keeping this program going. We have parents who are asking their schools, and there is information on our site, but it's not super clear. And just speaking with a couple trustees, I think we just want a little bit more clarity on this program and how it's benefit, because One of the things that I did read is that this program is supposed to help students academically. So they're supposed to be stronger in school with this program. So I'm just looking for that research to confirm that.
Associate Director Markowski.
Thank you, and again, through you, Chair. So what we can do is, I don't mind working with board personnel and bringing some sort of historical information within that report, and we can capture sort of all the necessary details that you're looking for, and we'll take it from there. Trustee Oldfield, I just assume there's no specific timeline attached to this, that once the report is ready, we'll try to turn it around as quickly as possible. We'll bring it forward at an upcoming Standing Committee meeting.
Thank you, and seeing no further questions, I'm going to ask for a vote. I'm going to ask you to use your check marks for me, just for me. So all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? It's carried. Next item is the letter to the ministry regarding the EDC cap, and I'm going to call on Trustee Morton for that.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The Education Development Charges Policy Review meeting of last week provided much food for thought. I find it quite alarming that the provincial cap on EDCs has caused a $116 million shortfall in our budget. I also find it very disturbing to see the effects of the cap over the next 15 years with the anticipated enrollment in our schools. Durham is one of the fastest growing boards in our province. The negative impact of the EDC cap will only become greater if that cap is maintained. Hence, I would like to propose a motion. I move that our chair write an open letter to the Minister of Education seeking a change to the EDC cap, which was established in 2019, emphasizing the growth in Durham and the negative impact of the cap on our financial position. Thank you.
I just want to make sure that we've got the motion, that we've got the motion clear. Okay, thank you. Can I have a mover? Sorry, are you moving that? Sorry. Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Trustee Cunningham? Any debate or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is the OPSBA resolution, and I think I'm passing this over to Trustee Miller initially.
Thank you, Chair. Each year, school boards belonging to OPSBA have the ability to propose policy resolutions or constitutional bylaw amendments to be considered by OPSBA members at its annual general meeting. Prior to submitting a proposed resolution, the resolution must be considered and passed at the members' board meeting. The fourth legislative review of AODA by an appointed independent reviewer has stated that the goal of an accessible Ontario by 2025 will not be reached. In fact, Mr. Rich Donovan stated that Ontario is in a crisis. 5 key themes are identified from public consultations and meetings. The themes are: outcomes are poor, enforcement does not exist, basic leadership does not exist, no one owns outcomes, and there's no accountability. Education can play a key role in addressing accessibility barriers for our students, families, and staff. OPSBA values equity, diversity, and inclusion, as well as quality education and innovation. It was an innovator and a leader when it started the Ontario Coalition for Children and Youth Mental Health. It has been 2.5 years since Accessibility K-12 Education Standards Development Committee had provided its final report with recommendations on the development of an education standard under AODA. For these reasons, the following draft OPSBA policy resolution is proposed to trustees. Through you, Chair, I'd like to call on Donna to read, Trustee Edwards to read the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the resolution that that the Board of Trustees will be asked to submit to OPSBA. If they agree. The motion is, be it resolved that OPSBA take a leadership role in addressing accessibility barriers for students and their families in the public education system by, 1, endorsing in principle the recommendations the 4th legislative review of ODA made. Review the missed opportunities and recommendations in the 4th review to address how OPSBA can become a leader and a role model in addressing the missed opportunities in public education. And then 3, ensure where applicable and wherever possible, when OPSBA responds to or submits responses to the Ministry of Education, that accessibility barriers are addressed.
Do I have a seconder? Trustee Miller? Sorry. All those in favor of moving it forward? No, I don't, sorry. It's a notice of motion. Sorry, just so we're clear, it's a notice of motion, and we will discuss it at the next board meeting. Thanks. Moving on is the student trustee report. Who will be presenting that this evening? Okay, student trustee Kasoju.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. The beginning of 2024 has been eventful for us. Starting off on an exciting note, the final round of student trustee elections have just come to a close. Please join us in congratulating our new student trustees for the 2024 to 25 school year, Shampavi Vijayakumar, Nitishan Sundaram, and returning for a second year, Kayla Hoare. We're eager to get to know them, introduce them to the board, and are excited about the future ahead. Throughout the last month, the Black student associations from various secondary schools have organized assemblies to honor Black excellence and educate fellow students in celebration of Black History Month. We take great pride in the dedication shown by students and remain committed in supporting initiatives that highlight Black achievements and brilliance.
Thank you, Chair. This month, Kayla and I had the opportunity to participate in OSTA's Education Action Conference in Ottawa. Throughout the weekend, we attended workshops covering important topics in education today, such as menstrual equity within our schools and the privatization of our education system. We had many guest speakers, including OPC and CPCO, as well as Annie Kidder from People for Education. These sessions provide valuable insight into our work as student trustees. The weekend was great and filled with enriching and meaningful experiences. I'll pass it back to Neha.
In recent weeks, my fellow student trustees and I have embarked on a series of school visits. We appreciate the warm welcome from staff and students and extend our thanks for allowing us to immerse ourselves in the day-to-day experiences of students within our diverse school communities. During our visits, we spoke to grade 11 English and civics and careers classes, student council groups, and other groups about our role as student trustees and the importance of student voice at the board level. In the coming weeks, we will be visiting the rest of the secondary schools. We are incredibly thrilled to meet more of our fellow students and peers within their respective school communities. Overall, February has been a packed month from elections to school visits. We are happy to take any questions from the topics we discuss. Thank you.
Any questions on the student trustee report? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next, which is the OPSBA report, and Trustee Edwards.
Thank you. The OPSBA Board of Directors met this past weekend in Toronto. We started off with 2 presentations. The first was Matthew Morris, the author of Black Boys Like Me, Confrontations with Race, Identity, and Belonging. Matthew Morris is currently a teacher in the Toronto District School Board. His book is a series of personal essays that address the question, what does it mean to be a young black man with an immigrant father and a white mother, teaching in a school system that historically has held an exclusionary definition of success, as well as other questions related to identity and perception. It was a wonderful presentation and highly recommend the book. Second was from OMERS, with the Ontario Municipal Employers Retirement Systems Pension Plan, and they shared statistics about their plan and their membership. It was interesting to note that 44% of their members are eligible to retire within the next 5 years. That is the same with within their educational sector of their membership. This is really a concern when we're looking at, in the future, trying to address staffing shortages. OPSBA board members discussed labor relations, legislative updates, government relations and communications, as well as a report from the education programs and policy development working groups and the Indigenous Trustees Council and Black Trustees Council. We had a brief opportunity to discuss our reflection on the presentations and status of board budget process. Just a couple of the highlights from the meeting. Some of brought attention to that, again, the 3 regulations have been posted for final consultation that are due April 2nd, and the 3 regulations around Bill 98. Proposed changes to in-person attended requirements for board and committee members, the Education Act regulation, trustee code of conduct sanctions, minimum reduction of honoraria, as well the Education Act new regulation, integrity commissioners qualifications code of conduct complaint process. Again, comments are, anybody can comment on those regulations, and they're due by, the closing date is April 2nd. As well as the Advocacy Day that was held last year in November. OPSBA members met with over 50 MPPs during the Advocacy Day to discuss education issues and priorities. It was felt at that point in time that more MPPs knew who OPSBA represents and what their goals are. The Ontario Coalition for Children and Youth, as well as other groups, will be submitting proposals to the government to support a collaborative approach to support parent caregiver awareness around student mental health. The Indigenous Trustee Council has formed a committee to support and advise on the planning of the National Trustees Gathering on Indigenous Education. Black Trustees Caucus continues to advocate with Ministry of Education for expanding the graduation coach program for Black students provincially, a framework for school boards in the province to ensure continuous improvement in Black student achievement, and the establishment of a partnership table with Black education stakeholders to work collaboratively to realize its shared vision of Ontario Black student success. OPSBA has made its annual call for policy proposals, resolutions, and constitutional changes for its AGM. These changes, again, are due to OPSBA by April 10th. And both the education programs and policy development working groups have been busy with providing input and feedback to the many proposed changes and regulations around regulations and policies. And the board, OPS board also reviewed its financial audited statement, which was presented at the AGM. Some of the upcoming events is April 6th is the OPSBA Central East meeting to be hosted in Simcoe County. April 25th and 26th is the Labor Symposium. The 26th and 27th of April is the next Board of Directors meeting. May 21st to the 24th is, again, your Take Your MPP to School week. And then finally, July 4th to 6th is the Joint Canadian School Board Association Conference and OPSBA's AGM. And that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions on the report? Trustee Miller?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to go over the date for the AGM in June, if you mentioned it, and if there's a deadline to register. Thank you.
It's July 4th to 6th and for the AGM. And you'd have to go online with the registration deadline date is for early registration. And it will be held in Toronto as well.
Seeing no further questions, we'll move on to the next item, and that's correspondence. There's a letter endorsing the Toronto Youth Cabinet statement from the chair of the board at page 7. And that brings us to the end of the agenda. And before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just want to remind trustees and everybody that the special board meeting will be this evening at 8 p.m. And so we will be back at 8 p.m. And can I have a motion to adjourn? Trustee Morton, seconded by Trustee Brown. All those in favor? We're adjourned.
Good evening, and welcome to the Durham District School Board Special Board Meeting of Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, this area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, there are no declarations of interest at this time. Could I have a motion to adopt the agenda as distributed? Trustee Edwards, seconder. Trustee Cunningham, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 on your agenda, I'd like to call on Council Cotter to give some information to us with regards to the integrity report. Actually, before I do that, if you don't mind, Council Cotter, I'll just make a couple of comments myself. Thank you. We have received 5 reports from the Integrity Commissioner. The IC report set out findings that some trustees have breached the board's code of conduct in several separate instances. We will need to deal with each report separately. Having received these reports from the Integrity Commissioner, the Board of Trustees must now make its own assessment of whether a breach or breaches of the Code of Conduct have occurred, and if so, determine the appropriate sanction or sanctions. As we deal with each report, if we find no breach, then there will be no need to consider the matter of sanctions in relation to the alleged breaches in that particular report. In accordance with the provisions of the Education Act, the trustees that are the subject of these reports are entitled to be present at this meeting, but may not vote on any of the issues related to their reports. But they may vote on the reports that relate to other trustees. I remind trustees that under Section 5.12.5 of our consolidated bylaws, each member may speak up to twice on any motion, up to 4 minutes the first time, and up to 2 minutes the second time. Before we proceed, I will ask Council Cotter to briefly summarize the process that we need to follow in accordance with the provisions of the Education Act and the Board's Code of Conduct. Council Cotter.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Thatcher. I have prepared a brief report in your agenda package starting at page 1. So that is a good reference guide for the process and for the findings set out in the reports. So the board will consider, as Chair Thatcher noted, the board would consider each report separately tonight, and with respect to each report, has to make 2 determinations. The first is whether there's been a breach or breaches of the code, and if so, the appropriate sanction. There are only 3 available sanctions under the Education Act if there's a finding of breach. Those are set out at page 2 of the report. The board may censure the member, may bar the member from attending all or part of a meeting of a board or a meeting of a committee of the board, and may bar the member from sitting on one or more committees of the board for a period of time specified by the board. So those are the available sanctions. If there's a finding of breach, then trustee who's the subject of the finding will receive written notice of the finding in the next day or so following the meeting, and we'll have an opportunity to make written submissions. If written submissions are made, the board needs to convene a second meeting to consider those submissions and to confirm or revoke its findings. The Integrity Commissioner has been appointed under the board's Code of Conduct to deliver these reports. However, it's important that I once again emphasize to the board the importance of the board in exercising its own independent judgment. The findings of fact are there in the report, but the board must assess the reports and the recommendations and make its own determination as to whether there's been a breach of the Code of Conduct. That means that if there's been a finding that some particular Twitter activity breached the Code of Conduct, the board may find that it did not breach the Code of Conduct. Conversely, if there's a finding that particular social media activity did not breach the Code of Conduct, the board is free to find that that particular activity did breach the Code of Conduct. So your independent assessment runs both ways, both on the positive and negative findings set out by the Integrity Commissioner. Similarly, with respect to the sanctions, the Integrity Commissioner can only recommend sanctions. It is for this board to determine what the appropriate sanction is using its best judgment. Subject to any questions you may have, that's an overview of the process.
Thank you, Councillor Cotter. Trustee Stone, do you have a question?
I don't have a question. I have a statement, if you wouldn't mind, before we begin.
Pardon me?
I have a statement to make, if you don't mind, before we begin.
For what purpose?
Well, when I
Well, this is highly irregular. I'm just wondering if you could clarify.
It's a request for you.
You're interrupting. Could you clarify what this is with regards to?
Yes, it's asking you to proceed with this process fairly. So I wanted to make a comment around that.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So Chair Thatcher, I would like to start by asking you to keep this meeting respectable and that trustees will be stopped from calling other trustees' names and lying about them. A previous chair allowed this to happen in what I viewed as a vitriolic hatred toward me and lies about me, what I said or did, such as being a scourge against the LGBTQ community, that I'm displaying hate and bigotry, and that I compared trans people to animals, just to name a few. And if a trustee thinks that caring about the mental health and well-being of students is playing some kind of game, I suggest that he reassess his thinking. So I'm thanking you in advance for chairing this meeting in a fair and respectful manner.
Yes, we will certainly do that. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cotter. Just wonder if there's anyone with any questions for Councillor Cotter before we proceed. And I'm seeing none. We'll now move to consider each report in the order set out in the agenda package. For each report, the board will need a motion on breach or non-breach. Jillian will assist us by getting the motion up on the screen. Once the vote is complete, if there is a finding of breach, we will need a separate motion on sanction. Starting with Report 1, dated January 26, 2024, concerning the conduct of Trustee Oldfield. That is in your package under tab 1. In reviewing the complaint and the alleged conduct of Trustee Oldfield, the Integrity Commissioner found that Trustee Oldfield breached the Code of Conduct in making a certain social media posts referenced by the IC as posts 1, 2, 4, and 9, reviewed at pages 15 to 25 of the report. The IC found no breach with respect to social media posts referenced as posts 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8, reviewed also on pages 15 to 25 of the report. As to sanction, the ICs recommended that the board censor Trustee Oldfield. We have provided the draft motion, which Jillian will put up on the screen.
Chair Thatcher, if I may, based on the recommendations and findings in the IC reports, we did circulate to trustees some suggested language, but I think it's our staff's preference not to jump the gun and put language on the screen until a motion is moved and seconded, and the trustees have chosen the language that they use, that they would like to use in making that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Cotter. Trustee Miller?
Thank you, Chair. Just point of clarification, is there only needed to have one motion per item?
One motion per item.
Thank you.
For the sanctions? Yes. So I'm looking for a motion with regards to the social media posts. As to whether or not Trustee Oldfield has breached or not breached the Code of Conduct. Jillian, will you put that up on the screen as someone provides us with the wording for the motion?
Yes, we'll certainly do that. As soon as we have a motion that's moved and seconded, we'll get it up on the screen.
Trustee Morton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I put forward the motion that Trustee Oldfield has contravened the Code of Conduct in making the social media posts listed as 1, 2, 4, and 9 in the report.
I think I'll look to Councillor Cotter to see if that would be required in the motion.
Student trustee Cameron's microphone was not on, so for the benefit of the recording secretary and the public, I can note that he was suggesting that the mover reference the sections in the Code of Conduct. Obviously that's a suggestion that can be made. The mover is free to adopt it or not. It's not required under the Education Act or the Code of Conduct to specifically reference the sections. The IC report does list out the sections that are at issue, but that's up to the trustees how they wish to frame the motion.
So student trustee Cameron has made a suggestion. I consider that an amendment to the main motion.
No, as a student trustee can only make a suggestion.
A friendly motion?
Well, I don't even think it rises to that level. I think we would just, unless Trustee Morton pushes her microphone and wishes to speak, I would just call for a seconder on the motion.
Okay. Trustee Morton, do you have any objection to adding that to your motion?
I think the motion should stand as it was provided.
I'm looking for a motion, a seconder then for the motion that Trustee Oldfield has contravened the Code of Conduct in making the social media posts listed as 1, 2, 4, and 9. Trustee Edwards?
I really can't put forward an amendment to a motion that hasn't been seconded. So I was going to wait for its second, sorry. And nobody hasn't seconded because I was going to make the amendment to add these particular sections.
Okay. Yeah. So Trustee Brown, are you seconding the motion?
Thank you, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion that's moved and seconded. I'll come to you now, Trustee Edwards.
Thank you. And that basically the sections contravene, we can add as posts listed as 1, 2, 4, and 9, and contravene sections 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, 6.11, and 6.44 of the Code of Conduct, as stated in the report.
One point of clarification, if I may, Trustee Edwards, for your benefit. You'll note in the
numbers?
There's just one section I think that needs to be changed. 6.44 is actually 6.49.
Okay. I didn't cross-reference them, I'm sorry.
Okay. So you withdraw? Well, I think that's the reason we didn't do it that way, Trustee Edwards, because it varies from report to report.
I think that is the only section number that requires the change. 6.44 to 6.49.
So, Councillor Cotter, could you give the appropriate sections then to Jillian so that she can add that to the motion?
Well, it's as stated by Trustee Edwards, except for the last statement she made. 6.44 would actually be 6.49.
6.49?
Correct.
So I'm looking for a seconder for the amendment. Moved by Trustee Edwards, seconded by Trustee Arsenault. Is there any discussion? So if you're in favor of the amendment, would you raise your green check mark? Okay, motion carries. So now back to the main motion, which is up on the screen. Okay, so we're back to the main motion, which has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Trustee Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. I do agree with most of the Integrity Commissioner's findings. I just do not believe that the political cartoons within the content of the report constitute violations of the code. The report talks a lot about the impact of posts on people, and I apologize, I'm speaking specifically about number 1 and number 4. And I believe when you're looking at a political cartoon, you have to look at what the point is. And the point can be different for different people, but I believe that the point being made for number 1 criticizes beliefs of people, and I think it is okay to criticize, and you have to look at the point. As well, for number 4, I think it's saying that just because you don't think you don't like a book or you don't want a book, it doesn't mean that it doesn't belong in the library. And so I think these are important messages out of a political cartoon that takes nuance to understand, and I just don't think that they are a violation of the code. So I will ask an amendment to the motion for trustees, if someone could move it for me, to eliminate number 1 and 4 from the motion.
I'm not sure what the amendment was. Can you repeat that?
Thank you, Chair. Strike 1 and 4 from the motion.
Strike 1 and 4 from the motion. Trust. I'm sorry. It's okay. Is there a trustee who is willing to put that forward? Trustee Cunningham? Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Are you seconding that? No? No seconder? All right, let's go back to the main motion.
Sorry, Chair.
Trustee Panillo?
Yes, my hand was up to second. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just seconding the motion. I didn't know if I already had one.
You were seconding Ben Cameron's motion?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there any discussion? The motion is to eliminate sections 1 and 4. Is there any discussion? I'm seeing none. So if you are in favor of the motion, can I see a green check mark? Otherwise, a red X. The motion is defeated. So back to the main motion. Now we're looking at the motion that I'm hoping will be up on the screen. And I'm going to call the question. If you're in favor of the motion, looking for a green check mark. And that motion carries. So we have a finding of breach. We need to now speak to the sanction. The IC has recommended that the board censor Trustee Oldfield. I'm looking for a motion. Trustee Cunningham? Can you put forward your motion, Trustee Cunningham?
Wow, sorry about that. I will put forward the motion that the Board of Trustees censor Trustee Oldfield.
Looking for a seconder? Trustee Brown? Thank you. Any discussion? Trustee Stone?
Yeah, I just want to say that on the last motion, you didn't come back to discussion. Didn't ask for any further discussion, but yes, I have discussion around this. Reading from the report, and I quote, "The sweeping nature of several of these posts creates a polarizing atmosphere. Inaccurate messages that those who do not actively celebrate and the lived experiences of others or would like to alter or curtail the method of the celebrating must hate them. But the impugned posts go beyond calling out bona fide instances of hate to the point of making unfortunate generalizations and even mocking religious beliefs," end quote. One of the posts, a post from PFLAG, an appalling comic, was mocking Christians. Our own board reports that Christians are the largest demographic in Durham, so the blatant disregard for Christians who are protected under the Human Rights Code could and likely does leave the Christian community, staff, and students feeling unwelcome and possibly unsafe at our board. I can't help wonder, would Trustee Oldfield have posted a similar comic had it been about Islam or Judaism or any other religion? In any case, just because religious views might be in opposition with the Pride community does not mean they are trampling on their human rights, who they love, or erasing their existence, or are hateful, any more than if those supporting the Pride community disagreeing with Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, or any other person's way of living does. We need to halt using our human rights policy and the Ontario Human Rights Code to stop parents, stakeholders from asking questions at board meetings. As a board and trustees specifically, we are to work through various thought processes, different ideas, questions, views, and opinions, and
point of order. What is your point of order?
Absolutely is.
Is there someone who is willing to put that point of order forward for Trustee Cameron?
We were just, Trustee Cameron's point of order was not heard by the staff or the members of the gallery, or maybe trustees on the other side. Can we wait until Trustee Cameron's microphone's on, and maybe you could state your point of order again, please?
Can you repeat that, Trustee Cameron?
Thank you, Chair. I believe we're discussing the censure or possible censure of Trustee Oldfield, and it's not pertinent to the topic.
Thank you. Trustee Brown?
Oh, and thank you, through you, Chair. One of the things noted in this report is that the posts were taken down and that an apology was stated, or the willingness to give an apology. So to me, just, is that sometimes we do stuff, but if you acknowledge and you are willing to say, okay, I see this from a different point of view, that's not necessarily the right thing to do, well, then I admire that.
Trustee Stone?
Thank you. That's your opinion. I'm giving my opinion.
Trustee Stone, your comments need to come through the chair.
Chair Thatcher, this is my opinion, nobody else's opinion, and I have a right to give it, and this is absolutely germane to what we were talking about.
So, where were we?
So I think, Chair Thatcher, Trustee Cameron raised the point of order. I think you need to make a ruling whether the point of order is well taken or not.
I rule that is in order. I certainly would uphold that point of order.
So the point of order is well taken, is your ruling?
Well taken.
I think then, Chair Thatcher, I think Trustee Stone should probably be offered an opportunity to continue with comments that are not, if she has other or different comments, other than the review of the facts she was reviewing. I think that would be appropriate. Her microphone is still beeping there, so she's still on the speaker list.
Trustee Stone, you have spoken twice to the motion, so I'm going to move on.
No, I have not.
Chair Thatcher, that was still the first. She was in the midst of speaking on the censure motion.
My apologies.
And she was interrupted. So I think, and her mic is still on. So I would suggest that she be invited to make a comment on the censure motion. But in light of your ruling, that the reading from the report as she was has been ruled out of order.
So, Trustee Stone, did you understand what Councillor Cotter indicated there?
Yeah, I wasn't reading out of the report.
We're speaking to the sanction.
Right, exactly.
Go ahead.
So, as a board and trustees specifically, we are to work through various thought processes, different ideas, questions, views, and opinions, and parental concerns so that we can live together in a pluralistic society without forcing one another to believe a certain way, and to show that our board is open to discourse and understanding and welcoming of parental engagement. We have the right and the responsibility to retain our personal views and opinions, and at the same time understand and accept that other people's views and opinions might differ from ours. This is how a civil society works. Referring to the May meeting, the 15th, Trustee Oldfield posted, if this is what your religion teaches, then your religion has no place in a civil society. There were Christians, Muslims, and likely people from other faiths at that meeting. This comment denigrated all their religions. The IC stated, and I quote, if trustees or parents have an issue,
we're speaking to the sanction?
Yes, I am. I am speaking to the sanction. I'm giving you my reason why I would agree with the sanction or not.
All right, continue.
Thank you. The IC stated, and I quote, if students or parents have an issue with the book, that should be a significant concern of the DDSB rather than an attitude of, well, Just don't read it, end quote. This is exactly what parents were trying to do at our board meetings, draw the attention of the board to do something about the books they find as very inappropriate for children. At the very least, we could have formed an ad hoc committee to review to review them. Some parents have been called very extreme names such as white supremacists, Nazis, far-right fascists, homophobic, hateful, heinous, and evil, simply for being concerned about their children and having different beliefs.
Stone.
No, this is germane to the sanctions.
You're not speaking to the sanctions.
Nobody else, when they were talking about my reports,
you're preaching
were ever
here.
interrupted,
No,
Chair
you
Thatcher.
need to.
I think you're being unreasonable, Chair Thatcher.
You
Point
are
of
out
personal
of order.
privilege. Point of personal privilege.
So I think, Chair Thatcher, if we could have perhaps some direction as to whether you're once again ruling Trustee Stone out of order or not.
I can't see it, though.
So that Trustee Stone can either finish her comments or you can move on to the next speaker.
All right. I'm seeing no further speakers.
Oh,
so
are
I'm
you
going to
cutting
call
me off? Excuse me, Chair Thatcher.
Trustee Stone, you have spoken twice. That was 2 minutes. I'll go to Trustee Miller.
Okay, thank you through you, Chair. My commentary regarding this would just be to regard the context of social media use. Social media can be a platform of promoting misinformation and heated debates. As trustees, it's reminded that we are mindful of the impact of our words and to set an example when we're on social media. And in that regard, I do agree that this was a breach of I do agree with the sanctions. Thank you.
Trustee Pinello.
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I just want to, I guess, emulate what Trustee Brown said earlier because it did resonate with me. I think in the sense of this is not the first IC complaint we've had come forward, and we've sort of seen or gotten understanding of how sanctions work and don't work. And this is the first time I've seen recommended anywhere that, you know, an acknowledgement or a statement or an apology or what have you would be recommended. And I don't take that lightly because I think oftentimes when we're debating heated topics, the personal is very political. And when identities are politicized, it is a reflection on our views, our values, and also, how we maneuver in the world. And I think that if there is clearly, because of the complainant, an issue with the broad spectrum comments that the IC found Trustee Oldfield had made, then I do believe it would be perhaps more impactful for a statement to come forth, censure alone, or a censure in general. I think it's, it is a tool we have at our disposal, but perhaps it's performative in nature based on how it's been utilized in the past. And I think if community really is, wanting to understand, like, are we correcting behaviors? Are we learning from moments where we've had a reflection, whether it be through an IC complaint or other conversations with trustees and community? I would think that is more impactful and valuable. And so I will vote against this motion. I'm happy to move an additional motion asking for, or an alternative motion asking for the statement or clarification in place of the censure, if that's appropriate at this point. But otherwise, I just wanted to be very clear where I stood in terms of this and also reading the recommendation that came forward. Thank you.
Trustee Pinello, can you explain what a statement of verification would be?
Sure. So through you, Chair, I think and sorry, I don't have the page number handy, but in the report towards the end, when the IC made their conclusions, I believe it was recommended that an apology or a statement be made by Trustee Oldfield based on the reflections that she herself had in her conversation with the Integrity Commissioner during, I guess, the investigation, the interview portion. And I think if, when we reflect on things that we retweet or repost, and we do see it from another perspective and we're able to reflect on that, that might be more beneficial for community to hear. I've taken it back, I've sat with it, I've read it from a different perspective, and this is why I've retracted it or would clarify. And so instead of us just saying we're going to censure Trustee Oldfield if she is willing to do so, which is the feeling I got from the IC report, it might be more beneficial to have an action item where that's what comes forth as opposed to just a broad censorship, because I think that's more meaningful, personally.
Trustee Edwards.
Thank you. Just to call a point of order. Under the Education Act, we only have three items that we can sanction, and that's a censure, barring a trustee from attending all or part of a meeting, or barring the member from sitting on more. Although, I do recognize in the report that actually Trustee Oldfield did say that she would issue an apology or speak to the individuals at that point in time, which is great when it comes to consideration around what the actual sanction would be. And so I'm just going to say I agree with the particular sanction that just the Trustee Oldfield be censured. Thank you.
So we're speaking to the sanction still. Is that what you're wishing to speak to, Trustee Cameron?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if Trustee Pinello would like to propose an amendment to the motion on the floor.
Well, if I may, Chair Thatcher, after Trustee Pinello made her comments, Trustee Edwards raised a point of order that an additional sanction of that nature would be inappropriate. So I would recommend to you, Chair Thatcher, that you rule on the point of order as to whether or not it would be appropriate to add additional or different sanctions to the discussion.
Chair, if I may address that.
I understand what the point of order is, and the point of order is well taken. At this point in time,
Chair.
I'm going to call the question. We have a motion that is moved and seconded that the board impose the following sanction to Trustee Oldfield, the sanction of censure. If you're in favor of that, raise your green check mark, please. That motion carries. So moving on to report number 2. Trustee Stone.
Thank you, Chair Thatcher. Just wondering if you could remind people of what censure means. Maybe the public doesn't really understand what that entails.
I'm happy to weigh in, Chair Thatcher.
Thank you.
A censure is essentially a formal public rebuke by the board in respect of the conduct at issue. So by passing the motion of censure, that is the public rebuke of the conduct by the board.
The report number 2 is dated January 1st, 2024, concerning conduct of Trustee Cunningham, and that is in your package under tab number 2. In reviewing the complaint and the alleged conduct of Trustee Cunningham, the IC found that Trustee Cunningham breached the code of conduct in making certain social media posts referenced by the IC as posts 1 and 3, also referenced as the May 17 and June 9 posts, which are reviewed on pages 14 to 16 and 17 to 19, respectively, of the report. The IC found no breach with respect to social media posts referenced as post 2, also referenced on the May 20 post. the IC has recommended that the board censure Trustee Cunningham. So first we need to determine if the board agrees that Trustee Cunningham has contravened the Code of Conduct. Looking for a motion to that effect. Trustee Morton?
I would put forward that motion. If you'd like me to reread it, I can do that.
Go ahead.
That Trustee Cunningham has contravened the Code of Conduct in making the social media posts as outlined in the IC report.
And Trustee Brown, will you be seconding that motion? Thank you. Trustee Cameron?
Thank you,
Discussion?
Chair. In kind of accordance of what our previous motion, where we cited Code of Conduct sections that were violated as well as posts violated, I would like to make an amendment to the motion to include that Trustee Cunningham contravened the Code of Conduct, and then add specifically posts 1 and 3, as well. Contravened the code, specifically sections, sections 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, 6.49, got that one, and then as put in making the social media posts numbered 1 and 3. So I'll just kind of say that again, if that's all right. But Trustee Cunningham has contravened the Code of Conduct, specifically section 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, and 6.49, in making the social media posts numbered 1 to 3 as outlined in the IC report. Thank you.
I think you meant to say 1 and 3, Student Trustee Cameron.
Thank you, yes.
I'd like to call a short recess, please, while I just get this all sorted around. So 5-minute recess. And the special board meeting is reconvened. Just to recap, we have Trustee Morton put forward a motion that Trustee Cunningham has contravened the Code of Conduct in making social media posts as outlined in the IC report. That motion was seconded by Trustee Brown. Student Trustee Cameron is asking someone to put forward an amendment on his behalf. Trustee Edwards.
Thank you. And I'm going to take up part of the recommended amendment that Student Trustee Ben Cameron has suggested. I'm going to add the words that in between the Trustee Cunningham has contravened the Code of Conduct, particularly sections 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, and 6.49. In making the social media posts as outlined in the IC report. And that's my amendment. Thank you.
Trustee Brown, you're seconding that motion?
Thank you. I'd like to second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Trustee Stone?
Could you just repeat the whole thing, please?
That Trustee Cunningham has contravened the Code of Conduct, sections 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, and 6.49 in making the social media posts as outlined in the IC report. Is that correct, Trustee? Trustee Morton?
I agree with the 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, but is it not 6.44? That's the old.
That's the old code.
That's an incorrect section
that's
reference. So
Trustee
it's now
Morgan?
6.44 is now 6.49.
Thank you.
And that was seconded by Trustee Brown. So we're looking for any further discussion. Trustee Stone?
So you're looking for discussion around this motion, is that correct, Chair Thatcher?
That's the amendment.
That's just the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll call the question on the amendment, which I have just read. So green check mark. That motion carries. Okay, so at this point then, we need to vote on the sanction. The board had the IC.
Chair Thatcher,
yeah.
so far, as it stands right now, you have an amended motion. If you could put it back up on the screen.
So I'll go back to
Jillian.
the main motion.
Back to that, the amendment carried, so you now have the main motion for the findings of breach.
So, thank you. Back to the main motion then, and I'll read that Trustee Cunningham has contravened the Code of Conduct in sections 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.8, 6.49 in making the social media posts as outlined in the IC report. If you're in favor of the main motion, discussion. Trustee Brown? Try again. No. Trustee Cameron?
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to vote for the motion, but I just wanted to say that I don't believe that post number 3 was a violation of the code, although I do believe that post number 1 was. You just pull it up here. So it says, this is a travesty, this is an embarrassment and a violation of child's human rights when referring to the article that says trans non-binary students under 16 in New Brunswick need parental consent for pronoun changes. And the Integrity Commissioner goes on to say that it's sweeping and unprofessional, which I don't agree with. I think it's critical of an education policy in the education sector, and as trustees who sit on the board, trustees are responsible for setting education policy. So I'm not sure when expressing concerns about policies that are in place by other governments became a personal issue. The Integrity Commissioner discusses how it's disrespectful to parents, which I'm not sure, that doesn't make sense to me. Parents can disagree with what is said.
And so you're relating that to the censor?
To the code of conduct, whether it was violated. I quit. And so, and as well, the Integrity Commissioner goes on to say that, so in the post, Trustee Cunningham said, it was a violation of the child's human rights. And the Integrity Commissioner goes on to say that we are not allowed, or we shouldn't say that, and that broke the code because it was only begun to be assessed by courts. Well, are we not allowed to say things because it's in front of the court? Are we not allowed to criticize policies? I just thought that was flawed. So I do agree with post number 1, but not number 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cameron. Trustee Stone.
Thank you, Chair Thatcher. I've got 4 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. When someone disagrees with you, it doesn't make them hateful or bigoted. Some parents are against child transitioning, socially transitioning children at school, and sexual orientation and gender identity. Because of new studies, countries are now stopping their gender-affirming care, and many parents are in complete agreement with the Premier, Daniel Smith in Alberta. All this to say that when parents simply request answers around highly sexualized books to be reviewed, bullying issues, sexual orientation and gender ideology in schools, to be informed about their child at school, concerns over shared bathrooms, parental consent for...
What is your point of order?
Thank you, Chair. This is not pertinent to the topic. I'm not sure how Alberta or bathrooms are relevant to the discussion. Seems like Trustee Stone is just ranting at this point, which is not a part of a concerted discussion about
Chair,
whether
can you keep this in order, please?
She is in favor or not of the discussion.
I believe that point of order is well taken. I'm going to move on. Is there any further discussion?
Wait a second. So you're not allowing me to continue again? This is germane to my reasoning.
We had a point of order, Trustee Stone.
It doesn't matter. So you're ruling that I can't continue. Why?
That is what I'm ruling.
Why? Why are you not
Because
allowing
you're
me
not
to tell
speaking-
you how
you're
I'm
off
going to
topic.
vote?
You're just making a speech here.
It is germane. It's about parents and parental rights and what Trustee Cunningham said about.
Any further discussion? And I'm seeing none. So I'm going to call the question on the main motion. Trustee Stone, you asked us in the beginning if we would be fair and equitable, which we will be. You are yelling, and you are speaking to other things that are not. The point of order was well taken. So I'm going to call the question on the main motion. And if you're in favor, green check mark. If you're in favor, motion carries. Moving on to report number 3. Oh, I'm not.
So I think, Chair Thatcher, we're at the point of the sanction for the on report number 2.
Moving on. The IC has recommended the board censor Trustee Cunningham. So I'm looking for a motion. Trustee Edwards.
Thank you. I move that the board impose a sanction of censure Trustee Cunningham.
And a seconder for that?
I can
Trustee
second
Brown?
that.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? And I'm seeing none, so I'll call the question. All in favor? That motion carries. Report number 3, dated January 19th, 2024, concerning conduct of Trustee Stone, and that is under your tab number 3. In reviewing the complaint and alleged conduct of Trustee Stone, the IC found that Trustee Stone breached the Code of Conduct in making certain social media posts referenced by the IC as posts 3, 4, and 5. And that is the sections 6.3 and 6.8 in the code. On pages 6 to 8 of the report, the IC found no breach with respect to social media posts referenced as posts 1, 3, 6, and 7. The IC has recommended that the board censor Trustee Stone and that Trustee Stone be barred from attending one meeting of the board. So first, let's address whether we agree as a board that Trustee Stone has contravened the Code of Conduct. Looking for a motion. Oh, your light's not working? Trustee Cunningham?
I move that Trustee Stone violated sections 6.3, 6.5, and 6.8 of the Code of Conduct.
Looking for a seconder? Trustee Cunningham, I don't think 6.5 was part of that. Let me just clarify. 6.3 and 6.8. Are you good with that? 6.3 and 6.8. Okay. I'm looking for a seconder for the motion. Trustee Brown? I got it now.
Thank you. I second that motion.
Thank you. Trustee Cameron?
Thank you, Chair. I was
Discussion?
wondering if the mover of the motion would accept an amendment to include the post numbers 3, 4, and 5 as well.
Trustee Cunningham?
That would be a, it's already been moved, it's on the floor, it's been moved and seconded, so you'd need a formal amendment to reference that.
Yeah.
What do you?
I thought you were.
I believe the motion as seconded did not, unless my notes are mistaken, I believe the motion as seconded did not include reference to the.
Trustee Cunningham, can you repeat?
Pardon me? Correct. Give Jillian a chance to get the correct wording up. That was an error in what was presented. So, Chair Thatcher, you have a suggested motion from Student Trustee Ben Cameron to add the specific posts, being posts 3, 4, and 5. So that would be a suggested motion. You could see if any trustee is prepared to move that motion.
Got it. Thank you. Have we got it now? Okay, so Trustee Cameron would like to make an amendment to the motion. So is there a trustee who'd like to put that amendment forward? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll put forward that amendment, so that would be posts 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, we'll add that. I need a seconder for the amendment. Trustee Morton? Is there any discussion around that? Okay, so let's vote first on the amendment, which should be up on the screen momentarily. Okay. Is there any discussion around the amendment? Now I'm seeing none. I'll vote on the amendment, please. If you're in favor, do you raise your green check mark? That motion carries. Back to the main motion.
Okay, that language is on the screen now, Chair Thatcher.
I think there may be a typo there. I think it should say making the social media posts 3, 4, and 5. I don't think the word "at" was supposed to be in there.
3, 4, and 5 is correct.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jillian. Any discussion around the main motion? I'm seeing none. All in favor, raise your green check marks. Motion carries. We have a finding of breach. The IC has recommended the following sanctions: that the Board of Trustees censor Trustee Stone, and that Trustee Stone be barred from all of the board meeting of March 18th, 2024. Trustee Brown?
I second that motion.
You put that motion.
Oh, I will move that motion.
Okay. Thank you. Looking for a seconder. Trustee Morton. Is there any discussion? Let's see it. Good idea.
Thank you, Chair. I think in our past discussions, the Integrity Commissioner has recommended that we bar from committees, and I know that that's coming up in the next report. Maybe I'll just do it then. Sure.
Okay, that's great. Seeing no further discussion, so the motion to censor and to bar Trustee Stone from all of the board meeting on March 18, 2024 is up on the screen. If you're in favor, could you raise your green check mark? Motion carries. too soon. Moving on to report number 4, dated January 31st, 2024, concerning conduct of Trustee Stone. That would be under your tab number 4. In reviewing the complaint and the alleged conduct of Trustee Stone, the IC found that Trustee Stone breached the code of conduct in making certain social media posts referenced by the IC on page 2 and 3 of the report, and further breached the code of conduct by publicizing the complaint against her. As to sanction, the ICs recommended the board censor Trustee Stone, that Trustee Stone be barred from all of the board meeting of April 15th, 2024, and that the Board of Trustees bar Trustee Stone from sitting on all committees of the board for the period from January 1st to March 31st, 2025. So first, let's take a look at the decision as to whether Trustee Stone has contravened the code of conduct, and the two code items, 2 sections would be 6.49 and 6.52. May I have a motion? Trustee Miller?
Point of clarification, I just wanted to reference what page you had received the dates. I'm at the section for the imposed sanctions, but I just wanted to know where you were with the dates that you had, the specific dates.
Why those dates?
No, where did you get the dates from?
The dates. At the current time, Trustee Stone is barred from all committees of the board to December 31st, 2024.
Sorry, Chair Thatcher, perhaps we could take a 2-minute recess just to confirm where we're at in the process.
5-minute recess?
Just 2 minutes even is fine.
and the meeting is reconvened. We are at the top of report number 4. We're looking for a motion as to whether or not Trustee Stone has contravened the Code of Conduct. The sections in the code would be 6.49 and 6.52 for your information. I'm looking for someone to put a motion forward. Trustee Oldfield?
I move that Trustee Stone has contravened the Code of Conduct by making the social media post, I move that Trustee Stone has contravened sections 6.49 and 6.52 of the Code of Conduct by making the social media post set out in the IC report and also by publicizing the complaint against her on or about October 27th, 2023.
And a seconder? Trustee Edwards, thank you.
I was going to second again.
Is there any discussion? And I'm seeing none, so I'll call the question. If you're in favor of the motion, raise your green check mark. Motion carries. Now I'll go to Councillor Cotter.
Yes, thank you. Just as before you move to the issue of sanctions, Trustee Thatcher, I just wanted to clarify that in the IC report, he did not include dates. He did recommend that Trustee Stone be censured, that Trustee Stone be barred from all of a board meeting, but he did not specify which one. And he recommended that Trustee Stone be barred from sitting on all committees of the board for a 3-month period. But again, he didn't specify the dates. I just wanted to clarify that for the benefit of the trustees.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. So I'm looking for a motion with respect to the sanctions. Trustee Brown?
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I put forward that the board impose the following sanctions on Trustee Stone. That the Board of Trustees censure Trustee Stone, and that Trustee Stone be barred from all of the board meetings of April 15th, 2024.
Okay. I'm looking for a seconder for the motion. Trustee Morton, discussion. Trustee Cameron.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to add an amendment that Trustee Stone also be barred from all committees of the board from January 1st, 2025 to March 31st.
Is there a trustee who would like to put that amendment
2025.
forward? Trustee Cunningham.
Thank you. I do feel that it is fairly serious to essentially dock someone and get them harassed online and at their place of work. So I would recommend adding to that motion that the board bar Trustee Stone from sitting on all committees of the board for an additional 3 months.
I'm looking for a seconder for the amendment. Trustee Oldfield, is there any discussion around the amendment? Okay, so I'll call the question. The question is in the amendment. It is moved and seconded that the Board of Trustees bar Trustee Stone from sitting on all committees of the board for the period of, did you say that? For the period of January 1st, for an additional 3 months.
I think for an additional 3 months is probably enough clarity. That means on top of the existing bar, correct? Yeah, correct. Okay, so I think that's an additional 3 months. That's fine.
Okay. I see no further discussion. So we're voting on the amendment. So could you raise your green check marks if you're in favor? That motion carries. Now we're back to the main motion. That the Board of Trustees censor Trustee Stone. Trustee Stone be barred from all of the board meeting of April 15th. And the Board of Trustees bar trustee Stone from sitting on all committees of the board for a period of 3 months.
For an additional 3 months.
For an additional 3 months. Thank you. Is there any further discussion then around the main motion? And I'm seeing none. All in favor, raise your green check mark. Motion carries. Looking at Report 5, dated February 2nd, 2024, concerning conduct of Trustee Stone, which can be found under your tab number 5. In reviewing the complaint and the alleged conduct of Trustee Stone, the IC found that Trustee Stone breached the Code of Conduct in making a social media post referenced by the IC as Figure 1 on page 2 of the report. As to sanction, the ICs recommended that the board censor Trustee Stone, that Trustee Stone be barred from attending one meeting of the board, and that Trustee Stone be barred from sitting on all committees of the board for an additional 3 months. So I'm looking for a motion as to whether or not Trustee Stone has breached the code, and the sections of the code here would be 6.49 and 6.51. Trustee Oldfield?
I move that Trustee Stone has breached the Code of Conduct by failing to, it's not in here, that Trustee Stone has breached Section 6.49 and Section 6.51 of the Code of Conduct by failing to meet the standard of respectfulness and in breaching the terms of the DDSB's human rights policy.
Looking for a seconder for that motion. Trustee Brown? Is there any discussion? And I'm seeing none. I'll call the question. If you're in favor, please raise the green check mark. That motion carries. We have a finding of breach. I'm looking for a motion on the proposed sanctions. Trustee Cameron?
Thank you, Chair. I will propose the following motion to the board. That the Board of Trustees censure Trustee Stone, that Trustee Stone be barred from all of the meeting of May 21st, 2024, and that the Board of Trustees bar Trustee Stone from sitting on all committees of the board for the period of April 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2025.
Is there a trustee who would put that motion forward on behalf of Student Trustee Cameron? Trustee Cunningham?
Point of order, I believe the dates April through July were actually in the last Code of Conducts. Were they not?
This is 2025.
I think those additional 3 months would be April, May, and June. No? Okay. Okay, thank you.
No.
So with the previous motion that the board passed, that was an additional 3 months. That would have brought from the period of January 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2025. So when looking at this now, the motion of April 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2025, that would be essentially an additional continuation of the previous one that was passed on report number 4.
Thank you for the clarification. I will table that on behalf of Student Trustee Cameron.
Looking for a seconder? Trustee Morton? Is there any discussion around the sanctions? And I'm... Right? So you decided to yell anyway. Okay. Trustee Edwards?
I I agree with the sanctions at this point in time, but I just want to make a comment that, you know, as I think as Trustee Miller said, when it comes to social media posts and so forth, trustees must be mindful of what they say on social media, that we are supposed to be role models. And it saddens me that we've now saying, after, if this sanction passes, that we've now sanctioned a trustee from a board meeting, from board meetings until May, the end of May, well, she'll come back in June, and then actually participating in committee meetings until June of 2025. It saddens me that we're in this particular place. And I would hope that as a board, we continue to improve and look at, you know, and look at being the role models for our students and for our constituents on upholding our Indigenous right or human rights policy, and basically for the sake of all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Edwards. Seeing, yes, I do see. Trustee Miller.
Just to add to what Don has already said, I just wanted to add a point about building trust and credibility. We're here today based off of what we have in front of us in the reports, but I think it is crucial for us to, as trustees, to avoid controversy and exhibit ethical behavior as much as possible, because it is crucial to effective governance and decision-making.
Thank you, Trustee Miller. Trustee Morton, I'll come to you first, I think.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I just also want to reiterate support for comments that we've heard, because I find it very disturbing that these IC reports deal with the use of social media. In our schools, our staff spends much time discussing the use of social media with our students. And I know we need to be supportive of our staff. So Trustee Edwards is talking about role modeling. I definitely agree. I think we need to support our staff. The messaging that we're putting out there is very important. End of comment.
Thank you, Trustee Morton. Trustee Cunningham.
Just a brief comment, but I do note that in this report, Trustee Stone said that of all the posts that I make, this was a bad one. I totally agree. I should not have put that out. So while I do support these sanctions, I also want to acknowledge that she did recognize the severity of the post, and I think we should keep that in mind.
Thank you, Trustee Cunningham. So I see no further discussion around the sanctions. And I'll call the question. Raise your green check mark if you're in favor. And that carries. As there is no further business, I'll adjourn this meeting.